So it's our first lesson in COMP2106 Advanced Server-Side Scripting, and let's go over the course. So this course, a little bit different. So we'll meet, as usual, I'll record the classes, but probably best if you join the WebEx sessions at noon on Thursdays. You're going to get the most out of the class, and you'll have the ability to, ask questions in real time, collaborate with your classmates. So we're going to kind of build on some of the things we did last semester in ASP.NET. We're going to use object-oriented programming structures and the model view controller pattern, as well as popular APIs. Best way to reach me is by email, and also here's my LinkedIn page and link to the YouTube channel, and I will record and upload, usually by Thursday evenings, all our lessons each week. So if you can't come to class, or you need to go back and watch part of a lesson again, it's all going to be on the public YouTube channel in a playlist for our course. Okay. I'll try to be clear about the requirements for the class. Do my best to keep things interesting, keep you from falling asleep. Morning, Aditya. Welcome. And just a reminder, generally, if you email me, usually you get a response during the week within 24 hours. If you email me over the weekend, probably won't get a response until Monday most of the time. Generally in the evenings, I'm trying to get away from my devices. So if you email me in the evening, you probably get a response the next school day. Okay. So make sure you're tuned into Blackboard in your email. Do all the learning activities and submit all the assignments and do them on time. Okay. If you need help, trying to solve problems on your own is great, but don't spend too long doing that. At some point, it's best to ask for a bit of help when you get stuck. Okay. So I have office hours Tuesdays and Thursdays or by appointment, and you can book them online at the Calendly link. Morning, Barak. Welcome. And if you book a meeting and you don't need it, just go into your Outlook calendar and delete the meeting, and it will remove it from my calendar, which will open up that spot for another student in case they need it. So the grading for this class is a little different than the other classes that we've had together. You have two big assignments. So a portfolio that you're going to build in the first half of the course, a CRUD application built in the second half. They're each worth 25%. We'll have a couple labs, 2 or 3 labs, some in-class learning activities, kind of like we did last semester. You might be asked to contribute to a discussion board or a whiteboard, and some of those will be worth a mark, basically just for participating. We will have quizzes, but the quizzes are not going to be weekly in this class. A little bit different format. We're going to have a review quiz every 4 weeks. So in week 4, there'll be a quiz based on lessons 1, 2, and 3. And those are actually short answer quizzes. They are not multiple choice, okay? But we're not going to do them every single week. So I believe we'll have 3 quizzes. We'll have a quiz in week 4, and then we'll have to dodge reading week. So I think week 8 and week 12. Okay. And then your final assignment, there's actually no tests or exams in this class. So your final assignment is going to be a student-led tutorial. So you're going to work with some classmates, and you're going to teach the class something new that's related to our technology stack. And that's going to be instead of a final exam. Okay. You do need to earn a 50, and just like in my other classes, there's no makeup assignments on offer. Okay, so at the end of the semester, you can't submit work you didn't submit on time earlier in the semester. I won't be able to mark those at the end of the term. So please make sure you do all the work, submit on time. So your assignments will be due, things will be due at 5 o'clock on Wednesdays, day before our class, with a late deduction of 20% per day. If you need more time, if you have a valid reason, please let me know in advance why you need more time, and we can discuss it. With the exception of the tutorial, or perhaps some of the in-class learning activities, that's the only group work in the class. For marks, everything else is individual. You have to do your own work, okay? And that means your assignments need to be entirely your own. And they are subject to a code review. Anything you submit, you need to be able to explain. If you can't explain it, then that suggests you didn't do it. It's someone else's work that I can't grade. So here's our schedule. So we actually kind of get a little extra lesson time because we're not taking up 2 classes with exams in this. So today we're going to do an introduction. Next week we'll look at NPM. We'll introduce Express in early February, and then we'll start working with our database, our NoSQL database called MongoDB. We'll start working with that in mid-February. So your first lab will be due in a couple of weeks. Your first quiz will be due in week 4, another lab, and then assignment 1 here. Then after reading week, we'll have a second quiz. Assignment 2 will be broken into 2 parts. The first part is basically just submitting a bit of a project plan as to what you want to do. And then your lab for that is you're going to be reviewing a classmate's project plan and providing some feedback. So lab 3 is easy marks. Tried that for the first time last year in this class, and students really liked being able to get feedback on their project idea from a classmate. And then you'll have 3 weeks to go ahead and actually build that project. So it'll be due in early April. And then our last 2 weeks of class, you guys are teaching the class. So in groups, you'll each have somewhere between 30 to 50 minutes to do a tutorial of a topic that you choose, and you're going to teach the rest of the class something new. Okay? And that's kind of instead of the final exam. Maggie, we can discuss that. The way I've typically done it in the past is we brainstorm a list of topics. So these are things that kind of come up through the course that are not part of the lessons I have planned, but that you might want to learn more about. So we kind of brainstorm them together and we'll put up a list. We'll come up with 6. And then basically I let people, in the past, I've let people indicate which topics interest them the most. And then I make the groups kind of based on that. So you get some preference around the topics you like. And I know not everybody in this class, a lot of you you're also in the Project Studio class where we made teams on Monday. I kind of prefer that people aren't working necessarily with the same team on both projects. So I'd at least like to mix that up a little bit. So that's kind of the plan for the class. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I went through this fairly quickly because for the most part, we know each other. I know you guys, most of you, almost everybody knows me. You know each other. So no real big surprises here. Said the only real difference is we're not doing quizzes every week and we don't have exams. We've got the tutorials at the end of the semester instead. I'm glad that's a popular option, huh? Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of different. You know, I had one student before years ago, the first time we did it. So Maggie, you can, actually, I'll come back to that question. You know, I did have one student once a few years ago object. Yeah, so Nadine, you're going to work in a small group. So for example, let me look at what some of the tutorials were last year. Bear with me for a second. No problem. It happens. Don't worry. I'm going to see if I can find what the tutorial subjects were last year. This is actually a couple of years ago. So last year, these were the topics. So one of the topics was unit testing, payments with Stripe, how to upload files, password reset. One group did a tutorial on how to build a real-time chat application, and one group did PayPal integration. Okay, so I might have some suggestions of topics, but through the semester, if there's kind of related subjects that we don't cover that you think, hey, that would be cool to learn about, then make a note of it, and then later in the semester, we'll kind of make a list of what the topics will be. And then, like I said, you can see here, I let students kind of indicate their preferences, and then I made the groups based on their preferences. Okay, Maggie, portfolio is based off of work. The portfolio is going to be a brand new site that you're going to use the technology that we're learning in class. But yeah, you can show off all of your other projects that you've done in any of your courses. And the reason why we're doing a portfolio is because a common theme that we hear from employers is that they look at three things. The first three things they look at for job candidates is they want to see a portfolio site, they want to see your GitHub page and examine some of your code, and they want to see your LinkedIn profile. And many employers tell us they look at those things in this industry before they even look at a resume. And probably a lot of students at this point don't actually have a really kind of professionally done portfolio that shows your work. So me forcing you to do this assignment is going to force you to have that portfolio that's going to help you sell yourself in the job market. But yeah, you can use it to show all the projects you've done, both in school, outside of school, anything useful that shows your skills. Okay, Maria, great question. Yeah, everything will run fine. You do not need Windows for this. Everything will run fine on Mac. The only thing for Mac users to be aware of, a few of the commands we run, you'll need to use sudo because they require elevated permissions on a Mac, whereas on Windows they won't. So occasionally a Mac user, you might run a command because we do use the command line a lot in this class. And it'll be not an infrequent occurrence for a Mac user to get an error running a command, or it'll be a permission error, and you'll then need to go and run it using sudo. But other than that, you absolutely do not need Windows for this course. Yeah, all the software should install no problem on OS X. Are there any other questions from anybody else? If something else does come to mind, then please use the chat or just turn on your mic and let me know you've got a question.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I did just want to address something around the tutorials.
Okay.
Yes, that is assignment 1, is to build the portfolio. So it'll be due, it's not due until February the 25th. But yeah, so it serves two purposes, because one is you're going to build an actual site using the technology we're learning. And then two is it gives you a portfolio, which is going to help you outside of school. Hung, which Angular version? We're not actually going to get into Angular until later in the course, and we're only going to do a few weeks of it. The real focus is on Node and Node Express and MongoDB. So I should check. I'm not even sure what is the latest version of Angular. It's been a little while since I've updated mine. Let's just check. I may be 7 now. You know what, Barack? Good question. I am not sure. I actually have to check. Maybe under release info. The Angular versions yes, it is 11.1 is the latest stable. The Angular versions are not necessarily sequential, like they went from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 4. There never was a version 3, so I kind of get a bit lost in the versioning with Angular. So they're at version 11. So we will use Angular, but we're not going to need it until later in the semester. In terms of resources that you need, so on Blackboard, in Tools and Resources, YouTube playlist for the lesson screencast is here. My GitHub link here, so I'll push all the code. So you'll want to install Node. You'll need MongoDB. Compass, you don't need it today. And I would recommend WebStorm. You can use Visual Studio Code if you like, or another code editor. It's really up to you. In my experience, I find WebStorm has the best support for Node coding. That's just my personal preference. If you want to use something else, you can. A few resources for you that just some other places to do some Node tutorials and a Node style guide, which we'll maybe look at a bit later. And also, as usual, I just like to throw up the Git commands for you, so you always have access to those. So today what we're going to do, we've done this, gone over an overview. I would hope that you've installed the required software. If not, you can start installing it. For today, you really just need Node and whatever code editor you want to use. You don't have to install the MongoDB Compass app for today. It'll be a few weeks before you need that. So as a way of kind of introducing our technology stack, the mean stack at Node, you guys are going to do a little bit of research in a breakout room. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly assign everybody to a breakout room, give you about 10 minutes. You can turn on your mics and or use the chat. And here's what I want you to do. Pick 2 of the questions below, answer them. You don't have to answer all the questions. Just pick 2 as a group. And then whichever group member, the first letter of your first name is closest to the end of the alphabet, will make a reply in this discussion board thread linked here on Blackboard, where you're going to post your answers. Okay, so the posting should come for whoever's first name is closest to the letter Z. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this. If you need help or have questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, so I'm seeing answers from group 3 and group 4 so far. So your answers were event-driven programming. All right, when the program responds to user engagement. So the flow of the program is determined by events, right? So an interaction like a click or a key press that requires a response. It's a good answer. And Barak's answer, but the mean stacks. Yeah, it's all JavaScript technologies. So one of the cool things is we're working with JavaScript from the front end right through to the database. So the components of mean, MongoDB, which we'll get into in about a month, Express.js, Angular, which we'll get into later in the course, and Node.js. So it's full stack JavaScript. Now, there are some alternatives to the mean stack. We could swap out Angular. What could we potentially use? Anybody know what some of the alternatives to the mean stack are? Yeah, so we've got the MERN stack. I know that Sean is teaching a couple sections of this course for computer programmers. Yeah, and Hung, that's right. We've got the Mevin stack as well, where you've got Vue, which you guys learned with Albert, most of you last semester, as opposed to Angular. So the Mongo, that's the database. Express kind of handles a lot of the web middleware. The Angular handles the front end user interface, and then Node is the back end, but all the way through it's all JavaScript. Great answers. You guys also defined the mean stack: Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. MVC, yep, is Model View Controller, which we learned about last semester. So Node runs on the server, and it's cross-platform. It can be used for mobile and web apps. Yep. All right, great answers. Thank you. Nick, Rebecca, Rachel, So Young. Okay, so Maria, thanks for posting. So a NoSQL database is something new. Has anybody worked with a NoSQL database at all before? Okay. All right, lots of no's. NoSQL, it's kind of, it's not right for everything, but it's a new and really different way, or newer and really different way of managing data. So the idea here is when we have databases with huge amounts of data and flexible data models. So we don't have this rigid structure like we do in a relational database. So NoSQL databases, they're not ideal for every kind of application. For a really complex database, we probably still want a traditional relational database. But where we have a fairly simple database, but it's used by lots of users and have massive amounts of data, a NoSQL database can be a really good choice. And we'll talk more about this in a few weeks when we get into working with NoSQL and MongoDB. And you guys, oh, great, you tackled this question. Blocking and non-blocking, or synchronous and asynchronous code. Yeah, Maggie, like a social platform, that would be a really good example. Or something like, you know, a really widely used mobile app. Let's say something like Skip the Dishes, right? They have a huge volume of orders, but the database is actually fairly simple. So a NoSQL database might be a good choice because they're dealing with an awful lot of data, but it's not terribly complicated. Basically just menus, customers, and orders. So blocking and synchronous are the same. So in blocking code, when a lot of the code we've written traditionally, when we execute code, like call to an API, our application kind of stops. It hangs until we get an answer. So nothing else can happen until we get an answer. In non-blocking code, we could do something like call an API, and then while we're waiting for a response, we could do something else in the meantime. So non-blocking asynchronous code should perform much better and run much faster. It should remove a lot of the waiting time in processing our applications. And Hung, thanks for posting for your group. So you guys tackled, okay, so you also tackled the event-driven programming. Yep, so flow is determined by the events. So things don't necessarily happen in a predetermined order. They happen in response to events usually that are triggered by our user. And yeah, MVC, Model View Controller. All right, some good answers there. And I think we attacked most of the questions. So what types of applications are good fits? So yeah, Maggie, you mentioned social media. That would be a good fit. So something where we have a lot of users, a lot of data, that's fairly simple and where high performance is really critical. Nobody really tackled this one, the benefits of Node. Could be an enterprise app potentially. Yeah. Okay, you know what? I think here's what we'll do. I do want to show you guys a video, a video about Node. It's about 11 minutes long. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause rather than me stream it to you. The link is here. This Node.js video, Node.js basics. So here's what we're going to do. It's 1:45. I want you to watch the video, and then we'll take a 10-minute break. So when we come back, the video should kind of fill in some of the gaps around some of these questions. So I'll stop my share and stop my recording. So I want you to watch the video and we can chat about it when we come back. So we'll come back to class at 1:05. If you want to take a 10-minute break first and then watch the video, that's fine. Okay, so keep these questions in mind as you watch this introduction to Node. Okay, and we'll reconvene in 20 minutes at 1:05.